Well, of course you shouldn't, because UKIP is not a racist party, but there's obviously a perception in some people's minds that we are racist, and I think it's quite interesting to look at why that is the case. And in fact, what I would even say is that a lot of the people who come and protest what we do, a lot of their motivation for doing that is that they do actually believe that we are racist. And kind of on the basis of that assumption, I would actually fully endorse what they're doing. And in fact, if I believed what they believed, I'd probably be on their side, perhaps not using the same kind of aggressive tactics, but I would certainly support what they were trying to achieve. But of course, the reality is that we're not at all racist. I mean, speaking from my perspective personally, in terms of my professional responsibilities, it just so happens that I've probably spent more of my adult life outside the UK working with non-Europeans than within the UK or the EU. And of course, I've got a business in East Africa working with Tanzanians, and of course I work in Eastern Europe as well, primarily with Bulgarians, and I get on extremely well with these people. In fact, more of my friends are non-British than British, as it happens, because of my professional responsibilities. So that being the case, I couldn't feel at all comfortable committing to work with a party that was racist. Now that's my personal perspective on the issue. But in terms of whether there is logical justification for the accusation that UKIP is racist, again, I would reiterate that when you examine our policies, you will see that frankly, we are the only party that is not racist. And the reason I say that is that the situation you have currently is that the mainstream political parties are committed to our membership of the European Union. And one of the implications of that membership is that we have to allow uncontrolled migration from all member states of the European Union. And that is a condition of our membership. And in fact, the Conservatives have argued that they could negotiate that point. But Juncker, Merkel and Tusk, they've made it abundantly clear that that is one of the foundational premises of the European Union, that there should be free movement of people for purposes of work within the European Union. And that being the case, there is absolutely no scope for negotiation in terms of controlling migration into the UK from the European Union. So if you think about the situation you have there, the mainstream political parties are committed to having mass immigration of Europeans into the UK. Now, at the same time, the British people, I mean, if you look at surveys that are done on a daily basis with all the major polling companies, the vast majority of the British people believe that migration does need to be controlled. Now, they certainly wouldn't describe themselves as racist, but the point is they are aware that there is only a limited number of jobs available for people to do. And your average British person, he doesn't speak 27 other European languages. He can't just get on a plane and move to another European country. We as British people have the disadvantage that English is our first language and English is the international language. So everybody else learns English, but we don't learn any other languages. So British people, the vast majority of them, can only really work in Britain. So whereas Europeans can come into our country and compete for work on an equal footing, frankly, most British people, I mean, certainly considering people in the valleys in Wales, have absolutely no realistic opportunity to move into any other European country and get work. And because of that, your average, British voter acknowledges the fact that immigration needs to be controlled. Okay, so with all of the people essentially saying, come on, please control immigration because there are limited jobs, what the government has to do is control immigration into this country very tightly from non-European countries, because that's the only control it has. So you have talented applicants coming, wanting to live in Britain from India, from China, from developing countries in Brazil, who are keen to forge relationships with us with a view to perhaps later negotiating trade relationships with these developing countries. And they can't come here because the Home Office says, no, sorry, we've got to control immigration. You're the only people we can essentially block because we don't have a contract with your country telling us that we're required to let you in. And so, in summary, the situation you have is that currently the immigration policy of the government, and you would have the same thing with the Labour government, is that if you're European, you can come into the country. If you're not European, you pretty much can't. And UKIP is the only party that wants to say, look, we honestly don't care which country you're from, what colour you are, what religion you are. If your coming to Britain is going to benefit Britain, it's going to be a mutually advantageous arrangement. If you come here, then you're very welcome. But what our position would be that all immigration coming into Britain should serve the interests of our country. And, ultimately, if we have high immigration into our country to address certain needs within certain industry sectors, we would then have a commission that kind of investigated the requirements for that immigration and would inform our education policy to develop skills that were evidently lacking, so that we no longer had that high demand for immigration in that particular sector. So our view towards immigration is that, on the whole, we would initially offer limited work permits. Like when I go to another country to work, they will allow me to work there for a year or 3 years or 5 years. We'd run a similar scheme until such time as Britain were able to provide the majority, provide for the majority of the need to accommodate growth in any particular sector and industry.